So now, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to say a big thank you to Carly Lyes, who's going to come up and say a few words, and she's from Depaul UK. Give her a nice round of applause. Thank you, Carly.
Hi everyone, I'm Carly from Depaul. I've been invited here today by Pat and the organising committee to talk to you about the work we do and how your donations have helped young people in Manchester who are experiencing homelessness. But I'm also here to thank you, each and every one of you, who's attended these dinners and donated to the fundraisers on behalf of all the young people you've helped. You may not be aware of the impact that you've had and the work that the MMMF have supported, so I'll fill you in a little bit about what you've achieved over the last few years. First, a bit about our history. Our first project, which is in the picture here, was set up in London in 1989 by people who worked in and around St. Paul's Cathedral, who were coming into contact with young people who, for various reasons, were sleeping on the streets of London. In 2002, we were offered a building in Manchester on Palatine Road in West Didsbury by a local businessman who wanted to give away his largest property to someone who'd use it to help young people. And there we set up our first project in Manchester, which is the 13-bed hostel for 16 to 21-year-olds, where I used to be the manager, which we still run today. That was joined by a project in Burnage, a 10-bed hostel on Burnage Lane, which Crookie and Pat came and visited just before the pandemic, which you can see in the picture here, and presented us with a cheque for their last donation. So over the past 3 years, the Manchester Munich Memorial Foundation have given our young people over £4,000. Incredible. So that money is used to provide £100 start-up grants to young people in our services who are moving from hostels and various forms of homelessness into their own accommodation. So a lot of the young people who come to us come with literally nothing. It takes a lot for someone who's homeless to pick themselves up, particularly when they're of such a young age, to get back on their feet, jump through all the hoops and overcome all the barriers that are put in their way. But these young people that we work with, they do it. When our young people get the keys to their new accommodation, most of the time it's just an empty shell. No white goods, no kitchen equipment, particularly in the COVID era, even the carpets have to be ripped out. So the grants that you provide give them the chance to get some of the basic equipment that they need to make their accommodation warm and welcoming and to turn it into a home. What's unique about the grants that we provide and the funding that you give is that every single penny of the money that you give goes directly into the hands of those young people. None of it goes on admin costs, none of it goes on marketing campaigns, CEO salaries, or anything else. Every single penny goes directly to the people who need it the most. For a young person who's made to feel rejected, isolated, abandoned, knowing that there are people like you out there, complete strangers, who are supporting them and willing them on, has a huge impact. The young people come to us from all sorts of backgrounds and end up homeless for all sorts of reasons. Most are escaping some form of trauma or abuse, domestic violence, gang violence, and end up becoming homeless trying to get away. One of the first recipients of the grant was a young lad from Cheetham Hill. He came to us after being kicked out by his dad because he didn't want to go into the family business being drug dealing and extortion. After 18 months with us, Your Money helped him buy cooking equipment for his new student accommodation after he got a place at Manchester Metropolitan University to study computer engineering. Many of them were previously in the care system, in children's homes, and then left without appropriate support when they hit adulthood. And we get a number of young people who get thrown out by family after coming out as LGBT or choosing to go out with someone from a different religious or cultural background. One of the most recent grants that we gave was to a young woman who was pregnant and was thrown out by her parents because her partner's mixed race. Your funds help set her up in emergency accommodation while we work with them to find them a permanent place where they can live together as a family. We also work with a lot of young people experiencing intergenerational trauma, whose parents experienced trauma in their own childhoods and just can't cope. Our organisational values, which are on the wall of all of our projects and services, the value that always speaks to me the most is the one about seeing the potential in people. So I'll be the first to admit that, like many people in this room, the young people who come to us are no angels. Many, due to the circumstances and situations they've grown up in, end up getting drawn into all sorts of problems, violence, criminal activity, drugs. I'm sure you can imagine the sorts of stuff. But no matter where they come from and what they've done in their past, what challenges they're facing, they all come to us with potential to change, to grow, to succeed and to achieve. And that's why I think that this project and the Manchester Munich Memorial Foundation are such a great fit for each other. 63 years ago, a group of young men were cut down in their prime. At an average age of 23, they were the same age as many of the young people that we work with. And we often forget that about the babes. We see them as these sort of giant figures, these superstars, these legends. But I was reading Sir Bobby Charlton's autobiography a few weeks ago, and I was doing some research into families in the local area who used to host players in their homes. So Sir Matt and Jimmy Murphy and Bert Wally, they were very clear from the inception of the youth system that they wanted to build more than just a football team. They wanted to build a band of brothers who'd fight for each other and who lived and breathed football and Manchester United. So Matt, Jimmy and Bert Wally ensured that the players who came from outside of Manchester, the young lads who didn't have families around them to look after them and make them feel safe and welcomed in this big new city, were placed into family homes. Mrs. Watson's on Birch Grove near the cricket ground, and the family's on Greatstone Road and Gorse Avenue, where Tom Clare, who's here, got some blue plaques put up a few years ago. And I read this quote, and it really chimed with me. This group of young people, who were just lads really, were brought together because of their great potential. And they were welcomed not only into the families that they stayed with, but into something much bigger than themselves, the family that we all know and love as Manchester United. How apt that part of their legacy is to support other young people alone in this big city with no family nearby to achieve their potential. You should all be very proud of the role that you've played in continuing that legacy. On behalf of all the staff and young people at Depaul UK, thank you so, so much.
Thank you very much indeed, Carly, for those very informative words. Give her another round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Spoken with passion, commitment and dedication.